Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Join me and my guests on phase 2 of this project, where we're on a journey to explore the good, the bad, and the odd of TV anthology shows, season by season. Shows with a strong element of horror, science fiction, and mystery suspense drama. Join us as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. There is no going back. Don't say you haven't been warned. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host, Mark. Now, this one's going to be a bit different. I'm starting a new phase of Anthology, which I'm going to talk about shortly, but I have got a couple of guests on who I'd like to introduce first, and that is Scott and Stephen. Hi, guys.
Hey, hello.
Now, I'm usually a co-host on Real Britannia, specifically talking about Hammer films, right? But I strong-armed you into, or I piqued your interest, let's put it that way, in this new phase of Anthologic. Now, this new phase of Anthologic is, I'm going to call it phase 2, is where I'll with other co-hosts mostly, so it won't be solo so much. We'll be doing deeper dives into shows. So instead of one episode, we'll be talking about entire seasons or half seasons or 6 episodes. Whatever's appropriate, because some of these anthology shows, run for 24 episodes or more. We can't possibly talk about 24 episodes in one show, so it needs to be broken up. However, the one we're talking about tonight is only 6, so we can talk about the entire season. So this is a new phase, and as I say, phase 2. Phase 1 will continue because there's always new anthology shows, right? Or there's always ones I can uncover. There's some that I just can't get specific episodes for at all, but if I uncover them, I will be calling those up. But I'll be referring to those as phase 1 from this point onwards. Otherwise, all shows you hear after this will be phase 2, and there will be much more infrequent. They'll be like once a month or something rather than once a week, because there are deeper dives and need to be, there's a lot more to watch. So anyway, let's set that up. Thanks for joining me, guys. I have piqued your interest, I hope, in several British anthology shows. But the first one we're talking about is one that you guys first mentioned to me as being a really solid one. When I mentioned to you, I think when I was recording the first episode, which was back in the beginning of 2024, right? I recorded an episode about sardines, the first episode of this season of Inside Number 9. So we got possibly a few lined up for the future, but we're certainly today we're talking about Inside Number 9. Now, I am fairly new to it. I think you guys talking about it, I kind of knew it was an anthology show, so I knew I was going to get to it, but you guys talked about it really made me more interested. But how did you guys come to it? Stephen, you're, I think, the bigger fan of this show, so
possibly, yeah. I mean, I managed to fall accidentally onto Legal Gentleman on the very first episode when it was released, which the two writers of Inside Number 9 were one of a foursome of writers, and 2 out of the 3 performers in that, which was a running series, which again was dark comedy with a certain amount of horror in there. Set in the northern England, which is where I'm from. So that then led on to Psychoville, which has a tie-in with this. And then as soon as, I've been watching their career as far as other things they're doing, these two, because everything seems to be golden. And it's the same with this. As soon as this was announced, it was like, well, great, I'm going to start watching that. And that wasn't disappointed at any point in watching it all the way through to... the last episode, which was of the seasons, which was obviously a disappointment that they're finishing off after doing so many of them. There weren't going to be more, at least not imminently. But
Yeah,
um,
nine seasons they did in the
exactly,
end,
yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
the obviously the next thing is going right. Well, they went from one thing to another good thing to another good thing. So I'm just in anticipation of waiting to see what's going to come next because I'm sure it'll be good, something I absolutely adore. But the mix of this just appeals to me with
So
regards to
you
the
kind of
comedy.
what did you watch this when it first aired?
Yes, yes,
You
from the
watched
first,
it the first day,
from
right?
the first episode of airing. Yeah, actually one of these rare occasions when because I'm not a television streamer, I watch things on actual television. It was one of the few things that I went out my way to actually make sure I was at home, sat in front of the television for when the episode first aired
Oh,
of
okay.
each one. So back to the old style of what used to be television, when people liked something, they'd make sure they were home and not at the pub or at work or whatever. So
The good old
yeah,
days, right?
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So back in my day, so yes, I watched it from as I say from the start and rewatched and rewatched and happily familiar with a number of them and to be honest, although this first series has a few of my favourites in, once you start talking about the episodes as a whole, as far as the entire catalogue of them, all the seasons, you end up saying, "Oh, I really like that one," and then somebody mentions another one, and you say, "Oh, I really like that one as well," and it's difficult to find one you don't really like, in my experience personally. So, and the mixture of horror and the humour, and to some extent, occasionally silliness, it just appeals to me. Really, fits
Yeah.
incredibly well with me.
I'll just say briefly, I thought this was a tremendous season. All six episodes really stand up well and are really well done. And I really did enjoy rewatching Sardines and then watching the new ones. And all of them are, when you watch an anthology, you always think, could this be a clunker? But, they were all very similar. Scott, what about your experience of this? When did you come to it?
Similar to yourself, mate, I'm quite late to discovering this because I'd watched League of Gentlemen when it was first aired, and about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I thought, you know what, I'm going to rewatch it. And I binge watched all the League of Gentlemen again, and it was about the same sort of time that Stephen was raving on about Inside Nine.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, it's a combination of, right, I've got to shut him up and watch this so we've got something to actually talk about, have a common link here. But also the fact that I had just sort of re-enjoyed League of Gentlemen. And following on from this, I sort of binge watched it over all of last year. Well, that's not even a binge, is it? It was sort of like an episode a week. I managed to sort of pace it out. And because there is an episode that you haven't seen yet, Mark, that links to Psychoville,
Mm.
I then watched Psychoville. So I've done all this in a roundabout sort of
Okay.
way of watching, and I've
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed Psychoville as well. Having watched the first six again this weekend, I think I'm going to start watching the whole lot again from season two now.
Yeah.
What it appeals to me, similar to like most anthology series, Mark, as you should know because you've watched nearly every single one that's ever existed. It's the feeling of not having to be committed to it because there's no running storyline or characters going through. You can you can drop in on episode two of season four and then quite happily watch episode one of season six with no interference or worrying that am I going to miss anything? What's the plot? But there isn't. They're all standalone, which is what a great anthology series does. And also with this, because they are sort of standalone episodes, the cast and the guest stars that they attract as the seasons go on. I mean, this first season's got some pretty impressive people in it. It just gets better and better, and you think, oh my God, they're in it. Look at that. I mean, for example, this first season, Timothy West, Emily Blunt, all of those guys, you think, wow, this is great, and it just makes it that little bit more special.
Yeah, it's the casting is quite spectacular, and it connects and all. There's a lot of interconnectivity with this and other BBC shows,
Hmm.
in a good way. They're really reusing a lot of very talented people, or indeed introducing talented people that went on to later to other things.
Yeah.
And their casting is is superlative. Yeah, the pleasures of an anthology show is for the vibe, isn't it? It's not for
Mm.
the interconnectedness. It's not for a running story. It's I feel like a Twilight Zone. I feel like a Inside Number Nine. I feel like an Outer Limits, and so on. Right? I feel like
But
a Tales of the Unexpected. You know what you're getting. You know
but
the
with this
vibe you're
one,
getting.
there's a slight difference to that because if we go into like the individual episodes, there's almost like six almost individual genres within this first season as
Indeed,
well.
indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that I'm opening phase two with this show. It's British. It's a really, really solid example of a good anthology show, and it really is. I don't know why I've never come to it. I do again. I like League of Gentlemen. I didn't watch it when it first aired, but I watched it afterwards, and I really, really dig it. Though I find it difficult to binge in that I can't watch more than two episodes at a time. I feel it's got a certain unpleasantness that makes me want to go and have a shower if I watch a couple of episodes. But that's one of it. It gets under your skin, right? And these two, Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith, are really good at that kind of thing, and they do it elsewhere. Reece Shearsmith in the movie A Field in England is amazing,
Mm.
for example. And they sort of permeate, and Mark Gatiss, one of the other creatives from League of Gentlemen, permeates, Doctor Who, Quatermass, and all sorts of other
Sherlock.
things. Sherlock, permeates all sorts of other things. So this is a really important. The Colonel from the League of Gentlemen has become very important in British culture and the BBC. And this show is outstanding, I'd say, actually. I mean, this first season aired during 2014. That's when it first landed. And I came to it very late. I mean, I watched Sardines. I talked about it January 2024, and the first time I saw it was only a little before the recording. So I'm late. I am late to this party, but it was always there, and it was always in the air, and a pleasure. And it's like sometimes you think, watch this, and these guys will be awesome if they actually did this instead, as well.
Mm.
For example, if these guys took over Doctor Who, we'd have some show.
Mm.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
It'll be worth watching again.
Yeah, no, Gattis has been involved, but if these guys were handed over the reins of that would be something, wouldn't it?
There's actually a Doctor. I'll come to it later on, but there's a Doctor Who reference in Sardines.
Okay. Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Mm.
Let's talk about the individual episodes a little. We're not going to go through it plot wise, but we'll give a feel, I think, of the plot, and give a setup. So essentially, Sardines is almost like a one room play, isn't it? It's a one room location. I
Very
think that was
small
the
room.
intention. Yeah, and in fact, a lot of the time they're in a wardrobe. It's people are playing a family game of sardines with various characters. Some of them unintentionally invited, and some not. But basically, they also kind of work in their work. Is it a family firm they work for? Because they all kind of sort of work together, and they're sort of there's interrelationships, brothers, sisters, fathers, and so on. And essentially, it starts off with Rebecca, played by Catherine Parkinson, wonderful Catherine Parkinson,
Yeah.
probably most famous, became famous from the IT Crowd. But she's in all sorts of things. Most recently, that Jilly Cooper series, she was really good in that. Was it Riders? Uh,
Rivals.
Rivals, yeah,
Yeah.
that was she was great in that as well, and she's excellent. She never seems to age either.
No.
That's the main thing. So it starts off with her encountering Ian, who's like a nerdy, boring guy who makes the reference about the TARDIS. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, he also mentions to her that he's in IT, which obviously IT crowd. But
Yes.
but yeah, there's a reference to that it been like been in the TARDIS inside it, but there's also one of them goes Geronimo when they're about to
Yeah,
go back
Geronimo.
in. So which is, at the time
Yeah.
was the catchphrase of the Doctor at the time.
It was, yes. Yeah. So, and goes on. Basically, more and more people get found. There's sort of asides. There's Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith play a gay couple in this you know, at odds sometimes. One wants to just enjoy himself, the other one wants to be serious and it's uptight. But basically, as the plot goes on, family secrets get revealed. There's a certain character called Stinky John, I think it is.
Yeah.
We find out why he's stinky in a very dark twist at the end. And basically, things come to light. Inadvertently, we find
Come
out.
come to light. Was that the pun? A pun.
Yeah, yeah. It's all and you know, there's basically it's an engagement party, right? For Rebecca, played by Catherine Parkinson, but one of his exes is there called Rachel, and he calls her Rachel now once,
Yeah.
which creates a problem and a
And
revelation and things like that.
yeah, and he's one of that character, that actor. He's one of the ensemble cast that is behind like the horrible histories and ghosts and other things like that. So he's got pedigree as well as far as
Yeah,
almost that ensemble creative team.
yes. He's very good in this too. Timothy West in it, which they really dug, being able to get Timothy West involved. But he's famous. Basically, it's a bit of a connection to Tales of the Unexpected. He
Yeah.
was in a fairly famous episode, which was the first episode of season 2 called Royal Jelly.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of connectivity with another anthology show, which they kind of dug. And basically, Dark Secrets come out, and it turns very dark. It's almost would you say this is like a bit like, I don't know, Beckett? It's not quite Beckett. No, Beckett is more like one of the later ones, actually. It's more like Pinter or something like that. It turns very dark, and you know, swerves quite darkly into potential child molestation sort of
I think
accusation
it's the most Tales of the Unexpected type episode out of the six, I think.
because of the swerve right at the end.
Yeah. The first 20 minutes, I mean, this is a perfect start to this season. It really eases you in gently because you're expecting comedy from the two guys, knowing their previous work. And it doesn't let you down. The uncomfortable social situations, which are heightened by the confined space and all of that stuff going on.
Yeah, so some of the uncomfortableness was kind of a bit like the British Office, wasn't it? There
Yeah,
was kind
that
of a
sort
bit
of
of a
thing.
feel.
Polite
Yeah.
awkwardness.
Tim Key was in it, and he really does that well.
Yes.
He's excellent at doing that sort of thing, and it worked well. I quite like Tim Key. I saw him in a recent BBC series called The Witchfinder, which I don't think anyone else has seen. I feel like I'm the only person that's seen it. It's a really good sort of folk horror sort of drama. Where he's basically wants to be a witch finder, wants to impress Matthew Hopkins, catches a witch, Daisy May Cooper, who isn't a witch, it turns out, and their encounters across the British countryside, and just meeting even weirder characters than them as they go. That's a really good That's a recommended show, not an anthology show though. But yeah, Tim Key was good. They're all. It's a solid cast, and this could be done on the stage as a play. There's absolutely no reason this could be converted into a short one-act play, isn't it?
Well, there's quite a few of the episodes over the entire multiple series where they do use this one room or pretty much one room setting for things. And I'm trying to remember. There was one of the it's one of the episodes from this series, Tom and Jerry, which we've come to. That was originally a play written by Pemberton and Shea Smith before they wrote Legal Gentlemen. But it never got produced, never got put on. It was just something they'd written.
Yeah, thinking about it, I think all 6 episodes are set in one location. Now I've sort of touched on that. They all are. They're all in one place, pretty much, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, a solid episode. I don't know if we want to rate these in terms of each other, but there's some that I think are possibly a little weaker than others, but the standard's extremely high.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that a weak episode of Inside Number 9 is still a great episode of some other series.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree. Interestingly, the whole lot were directed by the same director, David Carr, who did a good job. I think he taps into the vibe. The music cues are also very effective. They use the same music cues throughout, and they kind of work quite well. It's like pluck strings sort of noise
Yeah.
as we go into the episodes. So yeah, Sardines is a good opener. Good to watch again. I went into it a little deeper in my earlier episodes, so if anyone wants to go back, I think it was January 2024. I think it was episode 181.
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
did you guys spot the rabbit?
No.
Yes, I'm trying to remember where I saw it.
Yeah. Do
Is
you
it?
know this, Mark? I don't think
No.
we hinted at this when
No.
you invited us on. Every episode, Stephen, am I right? It's an ornament of
Yeah,
a rabbit.
it's like a pottery hair. Yeah,
Mm.
that's in every episode. It's somewhere in the set.
No, I didn't spot it at all. I
And that's
didn't
through
pay
all 9
attention.
series. It's through all
Oh,
of them.
wow. Wow. It's a bit like what is it? Sam Raimi and his Oldsmobile.
Yes,
Because they're in
yeah.
every film, right? They
It
put
was it was on in this
rabbit.
one. It was on the bedside cabinet next to the bed.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um good solid episode.
Mm.
Episode 2, Quiet Night In. Interesting thing to have a second episode about. An entire pretty much the entire thing is silent. Right? And it's pratfalls and slapstick is the vibe of it, and surprises, right? Basically, a pair of kind of inept cat burglars trying to steal a certain painting while a couple are clearly not getting on. Luckily, when they don't get on, they turn the music up. So these pair of dopes who are making a lot of noise, messing with dogs. You know, there's some. If you love dogs, you probably won't like this episode. Frankly, it's a bit like their treatment of dogs is a bit like, I don't know, a fish called Wanda. Say, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Um, so they're in this beautiful house with a lot of open, windows. So there's lots of interactions through windows and stuff like that. There's a particular point in this episode where I laughed the hardest from all 6 episodes. Actually, I
Is it
just laughed my head.
was it the bathroom scene?
Uh, no, that did make me laugh too. It was the scene where one of the burglars, Steve Pemberton's character, gets maced.
Yeah,
And he's trying to clean his eyes, and he finds a cucumber, puts it on a chopping board next to a pepper, chili
Yeah,
pepper.
yeah.
You basically see him stick 2 chili peppers into his eyes to try and soothe them. That did make me laugh and wince quite a lot. But there's quite a lot of things like that throughout this episode. We get ooh,
There's
ooh.
yeah, there's a lot, as you say, a bit more slapstick in this, and it is the homage to both sort of silent comedy and also like heist films, but obviously in a comedy element. And although this has got I don't think we mentioned that this one of the things about Inside Number Nine is that there's usually more than one twist. Usually a twist upon the twist. We get that, and we don't want to spoil those twists, so we won't say what they are. But
we won't say what- yeah.
but the thing about the link to the silent comedy thing that you were mentioning is that I don't know if you know, but the actress that's playing the girlfriend is Una Chaplin, who is the granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin.
Indeed, yeah, and I don't think that was intended. It wasn't stunt casting. It's just a happy coincidence.
Yeah.
Well played. I mean, this is apart from the very end. There's some dialogue which we won't go into because it should be watched. I think it should be watched. But that's a bit of comedy, but it's entirely silent. There was also a bit of channeling of like Lauren Hardy. Things like that, right?
Definitely.
Three Stooges.
Yeah, it's a brave departure, I think, but it's one that works.
Yeah, indeed.
And it's one of my favourite out of the 6 because watching it again for the second time, I mean, this is a brave statement, Mark, and I know you're a bit of a fan of things like The Plank and those sort of silent comedies.
Yeah.
But in the history of sort of British, sort of modern silent comedies, which there aren't many, the 2 Ronnies did by the sea and The Picnic and those things. This is exceptional. The scripting for this, which has got no dialogue, as you say, is meticulous. It's point perfect throughout for a visual 26 minutes of television. It's flawless. It's absolutely flawless.
I agree. Sorry,
I
go
was
on,
going to
Steve.
say it's one. There's this and the subsequent episode. Sorry, the following episode. It is two of my favourites of the entire
Yeah,
run of
yeah.
Inside Number Nine. To be honest, yes, incredibly brave to come into your second episode with something that's silent, effectively, but it is so finely crafted, and there's a really the whole thing about not needing to watch them sequentially. There is a later episode that you could do with having watched this first before watching
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
because the revisit. Which shows what a popular episode and what a great one it was, but it is meticulously done for all, and I think this is something that is overlooked a lot of the time with things that are a bit more slapstick and physical comedy. That the intricacies and how finely detailed it needs to be to make it work, and these two are play to their strengths, really. I mean, they can do dark and broody and menacing, but they can also do two clowns basically
Yeah.
incredibly well as well. They've got
Even
such a
even
range.
to the point that Shearsmith, no, not Shearsmith, Pemberton is just wearing comic teeth throughout as
Yeah,
well for
yeah.
no reason whatsoever. He's
It's
got,
not
Yeah.
referenced; it just is
yeah,
there. Yeah,
Yeah, and one thing I will say is I tried to go into these cold, other than
mm,
knowing the title, which is given anyway. I tried to not know what was coming. So
yeah.
as I settled into this, the first 5 or 10 minutes, it was like, oh, it's silent. It's silent. Okay. And then I was thinking, well, are they going to be able to sustain it? They're surely going to break because you
Yeah.
can't sustain this sort of thing for 26 minutes. And they do very successfully. I'd rate this higher than any other. I'd rate this above the plank, personally.
There you
I
go.
think this is more
There
entertaining.
you go. Because I knew you were a
Uh,
fan, mate. I knew you were a
yeah,
fan.
no,
And
no.
and the good thing about this, we're saying it's silent. The use of music throughout this,
Yeah,
the classical music, and even the point where the TV's turned on and it's EastEnders playing in the back, it's all relevant and it all works.
yeah,
And,
it
and it
does.
plays Without You by Nielsen at one point, and it's just
yeah. And
fine
when we
crafted.
say silent, I think the listener needs to understand that it's not like a silent film where there just isn't any
Mm,
noise at all. This is just lacking any dialogue.
Dialogue,
yeah,
yeah.
There's some muffled dialogue, and obviously there's one piece right at the very end. But there's muffled dialogue otherwise, some screaming at each other behind some strong glass. So, but otherwise, because of the nature of what it is, somebody trying to sneak in to steal things. That it is, and then the couple not talking to each other. It ends up being that dialogue isn't there, but there's plenty of other sounds with regards to, as you say, the music and barking of dogs or etc.
mm,
And so it's not not completely silent in the same way, but then that's the same with the plank. That's not completely silent. It is just dialogueless, if that's a
Dialogueless.
phrase. Yeah,
Dialogue. It's dialogueless, and it works beautifully. It's a beautiful piece. Interestingly, there is one other anthology show where there is one episode with basically very little to no dialogue, which is I'm quite surprised to exist, actually. But get this, it's from a show called Nightmares and Dreamscapes. The stories of Stephen King. It's
yeah.
based on stories from Stephen King's prolific short story writer.
That's a
It's probably
Bachman book as well, isn't it? Nightmares and Dreamscapes, I think, isn't it?
no,
Is
no,
it
no.
not?
This was a Stephen King short story book. But there was an episode. It was, in fact, the opening episode. It was only a one season show, and it was from 2006, so it's made before this, called Battleground, where essentially an assassin. And the first bit there is some dialogue. An assassin is sent to kill the CEO of a toy making corporation. Kills him, and but when he gets back to his own apartment, or I can't remember exactly, he may be still in the apartment of where he's killed the guy. The toys basically start attacking him. So it's basically a battleground of a trained assassin having to deal with murderous toys, and that sustains it for 45 minutes. Believe it or not, but I think because it's action, it's kind of a different, has highs and lows. Comedy's a lot harder to sustain, I'd say. So yeah, interesting. There's actually two episodes of Anthology TV that are almost silent, or certainly dialogueless. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is Tom and Jerry. Geei. It's a female name.
yeah,
Essentially, Shearsmith plays a character, Tom, who's a primary school teacher who hates his work pretty much, but he's writing a novel. Um, he's an aspiring author, and he lives with Jerry, played by Jim Martin, who's what so far out of his league it's ridiculous. It appeared to me, and they sort of mention there's a sort of a homeless person, a tramp, though he doesn't. They don't like using those words at first across the street, but then he's on his own, and there's a knock on the door, and it turns out this tramp as called Mig has found his wallet and sort of takes a turn. Basically, he inveigles himself inside. It's a bit like Down and Out in Beverly Hills, right? In the
Yes. Yeah.
someone coming into it. It's quite a famous trope in movies, right? Someone coming into a thing and upsetting the balance of a household. It was recently Saltburn, wasn't it? Saltburn did that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is all set in that one flat. Again, extremely enjoyable. And Stephen, you mentioned they'd written a play, and it was kind of an adaptation of that, and they
This
used
is
that.
this is it, yeah. And you think that I mean, they were young, really, when although they'd had a number of years of trying to get into, you know, making their breaks before League of Gentlemen sort of came out. They did spend a lot of time on the dole waiting for acting jobs to come in, and there's various tales they tell. I mean, I've seen not only have I seen League of Gentlemen live, but I've also seen Inside Number Nine when they were doing a few skits, but basically it was a Q&A, and they speak a lot about the where their inspiration came for a lot of things, when not only being on the dole, which obviously this is a good example of, which inspired them, but also just the voracious intake of pretty much daytime television or late night horror on British television, fed their imaginations and fed into them. And I think it's very, like you've said, it's very easy to see where things like Tales of the Unexpected or some of the Hammer stuff or whatever has seeped into their consciousness, and in no way is it that's meant to sound that they're derivative of anything, because this is incredibly, although there's pastiches and homages and references, this is all very original stuff that they do. But this episode, yes, it's very much based upon their experiences of been on the dole and waiting for the next bit of money to come in, and struggling, really.
Yeah, it did remind me. I remember, when I was a lot younger, friends on the dole, you go around their house and the table's full of old empty cans and the washing up's been in the sink for a week. It's all there. It's all there. And I think, again, this could be a one act. Well, it was a one act play, right? So it sort of fits the structure. Interesting twist, which I'm not going to reveal. Quite enjoyed it, and I just thought it was played really well. The thing about both of these guys is, and they're both in this episode, is they're really good at being able to switch from comedy to sinister and back again, and that really serves this story and most of their stories. Right? They're just really good
There's
at
They're,
it.
they're,
there's
they're
not
very
a lot.
good.
Sorry, Michael.
I'm going to say they're very good chameleons in general for playing different characters, and you're not necessarily seeing them as them. You see them as the character. They're very good at that across everything they do acting wise, but particularly their own stuff like Inside Number Nine. But yeah, they do comedy and sinister very well, and it is a switch, being able to switch between the two, and that's not easy, like you said.
Yeah. The other thing about that, the entire series actually, is their ear for dialogue. It's the fact is we have long dramatic scenes, but then they have some little statement that's just funny and silly that they've obviously or may have heard in real life and thought, I've got to put that in a script, and it's just funny, just little comments that break the drama but give you a chuckle, and there's a fair few in this one too. And a twist I wasn't expecting, I have to say, not at all. Um, I thought it turned one way, and you thought, oh, okay, it's that. And it's a bit Fight Clubby, let's put it that way. But then we find out not necessarily the case, or it might be, it might not. You need to see it yourself, I think. I'm trying not to spoil it for anyone. Yeah, so solid work. Again, very small cast, very small cast. I think there are four of them, four
Four,
characters in this,
four,
right?
yeah.
Darren Alton, and then the friend who was a teacher as well, right? Worked at the school as well, came to visit. Okay, the next one, Last Gasp, is a little more expansive. We actually see a bit of daylight, stuff like that. Set in a family home where a little girl is obviously very ill, Tamsin, um, and a celebrity, a singer called Frankie J. Parsons, um, has come to visit for some celeb
Well,
stuff. Right?
you get the impression that the mother's the
The
fan,
fan,
really,
yeah,
not the daughter.
yeah.
Yeah,
The little girl has very little dialogue, but you can kind of tell she's just sick of these two parents, right? They're just terrible. The mum Jan, played by Sophie Thompson, who I thought I know that actress from somewhere, and I was thinking about it, and then I googled it in the end. Oh yeah, she plays a character called Sheila in The Detectress, which came out about the same time as this.
Yeah, she's
She's
the wife of the guy that runs the club.
Yeah, she's
Mm,
very good in that, and she plays a very similar character in
yeah,
this. Actually, maybe not as what's the word, hippie-ish. She's kind of a vague, I don't know, flower on the breeze kind of character in The
yeah,
Detective. She's a bit more down to earth, but still sort of, a bit, bobble-headed kind of thing. Frankie J. Parsons and his, I don't know, his assistant stroke bodyguard or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Um, and then also a representative from a firm called Wishmaker UK called Sally. Tamsin Greig, really good.
yeah,
Obviously, we know her from Black Books, Friday Night Dinner and
yeah.
stuff like that. She's great in this as like the PR person. Um, but they're trying to blow up balloons, and Frankie J. Parsons, who's this singer, blows up a balloon and has a brain embolism, basically, or something like that. And they've got this balloon full of his last breath, and it all becomes about, okay, what's this worth? And the little girl is kind of sidelined massively, um, and by these parents and these people that are trying to figure out how much money they can make from this, and it kind of develops into oh, maybe we can sell more than one. Who would know? Things like that, right? Because we've got video evidence. I did like how it started with the video camera and the wife obviously being terrible at working the video camera. That was kind of because I was wondering, oh, is the whole episode going to be like video cams? Almost like, I don't know.
Oh, wait till a
Um,
later episode. It's done
uh,
for a door cam, Stephen, isn't it? I think on one episode.
oh wow.
well, there's one done through Doorcam, but there's also one that's done through like CCTV around
Yeah,
a TV studio.
that's a
Yeah.
great episode. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
So
like
yeah,
the televisual equivalent of what used to be called epistolary stories, right?
it's easy for you
In
to say.
letters. Yeah, not that easy. I'm breaking his teeth in. Yeah. Yeah. So it turns out to be, how much can we get for this? Apparently, the episode was driven by people, bidding on, things like, I don't
Oh,
know, the sandwich that killed Elvis, that sort of thing,
what did
right?
they mention in here? There was something, wasn't there? There was toast crumbs or something.
Justin Bieber's Fringe,
Yeah,
I think there was.
somebody's toast crumbs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's-
someone's hanky, wasn't it, or something? I
yeah.
don't know. A really good cast again, very solid.
Can I say
Um,
though, I think it's probably the weakest out of the six, this one, because I think the ending lets it down. There is no real twist to the ending of this.
yeah, well, kind of. You know what? The first thing I thought of when it became about a balloon is, well, that balloon's going to pop, isn't it?
Mm.
And it doesn't. So that for me was a twist, actually, because
I
I was
think the
like,
twist occurs about three-quarters of the way through.
yes,
yes.
oh
Uh,
yes, it gets really
yeah,
dark,
and then it
really dark.
becomes really dark. And the actual finale, the final scene, I think, for want of a better word, deflates the episode.
I know. I think it's
It-
the only one. I think you're right. It's the only one that doesn't have a substantial twist, and certainly doesn't have. I think all the others could in one way or another, either blatantly or subtly, have a double twist.
Yeah.
Whereas this is the only one that doesn't have such even one really strong twist, unless you do count what we all know happens about halfway through. But I mean, I still think it's still great in comparison to lots of other things on the
Yeah,
television.
absolutely. It
But
did. I
but it
did not
doesn't.
feel robbed
But
in any way. Yeah.
No, no.
yeah, it doesn't have the same level as the others, in the way that there's not the same menace as well, which obviously is pervading the others a bit stronger. But yeah, it doesn't. I don't know why there wasn't something else worked in, and whether it was just that they decided not to do something a bit lighter or a bit something different with it. And I don't think they really revisit something quite this style further in. I think they're going further through the series. I think everything else still has more of a menace to it, or a darkness,
Yeah, I'm trying to think. This
or a
has got a
stronger
real,
twist,
yeah, this
really.
has got a real sort of satirical edge to it. It's sort of exploring,
Yeah.
about fame and pop
Greed.
culture and people's obsession with
Yeah.
greed and all that sort of stuff. Um, and that's not the reason it doesn't work. It's just I think it's the fact that we've got a little bit of a formula building over the previous three episodes, and we're sort of expecting some sort of twist or something to make you go, "Oh my God, wasn't expecting that." And it doesn't happen in this one, but it doesn't take away the fact that this is still quite a good episode, though.
Yeah. I'd say it does work for me, this episode. I don't feel let down in any way.
It
Let
works. It
down,
just
let down,
Amen.
right?
Yeah.
it works. It's just different. It just is of a different flavour to
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty much all the rest of
I,
the series.
I was expecting, I'll tell you why, throughout the episode, they kept going on about how hard the balloons were to blow up. So I was expecting someone else to have the same, have an embolism
Oh,
too. Because I'm
right.
going, oh, these balloons are so difficult. Where's the pumper? They kept saying,
Yeah.
where's the pumper? I kept going on about the pumper, right? And this poor little girl, constantly, Tabs, he really wants this. And she's just sitting there looking at him.
Tam Tam,
Tam
Tam Tam,
Tam.
as they keep referring to, and the first time somebody refers to her by her proper name, is the person who's in real life has the same name, which is Tamsin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a nice touch, that isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, I liked it. I liked this episode well enough. For me, it wasn't the weakest actually.
Okay.
Okay, so the next episode is the understudy, which is basically set in dressing rooms. Would you say pretty much
One dressing room, yeah,
one
yeah.
dressing room? So essentially, production of Macbeth, where Steve Pemberton is the main actor, but he's got an understudy who's a mousy guy, Shearsmith Jim. And he's got a fiance that's kind of egging him on, saying, "You got to try," and stuff like that. Essentially, they structure this like Macbeth somewhat, and it's even got five acts, a standard
Yeah.
for Shakespeare five-act play. So it's kind of, you know, she's the understudy for Lady Macbeth, he's the understudy of Macbeth, and she's acting Lady Macbeth like. And egging him on and stuff like this. And there's also this play about, or this undercurrent of, yeah, he's on the wagon, right? He's been dry for a number of years and stuff like that. But then he gets drunk and allows Jim to possibly take over, but he resists, doesn't he? He resists. He's in the end. He's like, I think he's all right. There's also a stage manager, and I can't remember the actress's name, but she's in Gavin and Stacey, isn't she? She's the wife of the couple that keep breaking up and getting back together. And they love their breakup sex, is how it feels to me, or reconciliation. She's in it. And there's also this fawning dresser lady, assistant, sort of gopher, who really likes Jim, clearly.
Mm.
And it goes on. Again, no faults with this one. I really enjoyed it. I
This has
felt
got the double twist, hasn't it? This has got
it's
the
got the
double
double
twist.
twist, which was a really good twist. But for me, this felt the weakest one. For me, I like this least of all of them. However, I still thought it was a great episode. You know, the quality is so high. That's the
I
thing.
can see why you like this, Mark, because of your love of Shakespeare.
I
And,
do. Yeah.
and although you don't need a knowledge of the plot of Macbeth, if you do know the plot of Macbeth, this is amazing the way it parallels,
Yeah.
the actual play itself.
The pricking of the finger, and they even quote it,
Everything is
don't
in
they?
here. Everything is
When
in
things get dark, they actually say unintentionally by the pricking of my thumb something
wicked this
wicked
week.
this way comes, and laugh about it because it's from the play, right?
Yeah.
Because someone's just pricked their finger. So yes, I thought Pemberton was really. They were. It was great, but Pemberton was really convincing as an overblown leading man, who's kind of trying to, you know, you could believe he could do a
He
performance of
does
Macbeth.
he does pomposity very well,
Yes,
Everton.
yeah.
Very well.
He's like Peter O'Toole, like or something like that,
Mm.
in their Shakespearean sort of attitudes. And he's like an old school Victorian kind of role. Yeah, very enjoyable. Nasty twist. as
Yeah,
well.
I think there's multiple layers to this, as you say, particularly the Shakespearean one. But it does have just the general air of menace to it, and um, questioning about what's happening and seeing there being the change in the dynamic. I think is quite clever the way they've done all of that. So it's you know I still. I would say the previous episode was weaker than this, and obviously it's all down to personal preference. But um, certainly there's, as you said, the performances are just spot on with it, and again, a small cast of people. Even if you include the neighbours that come and visit the dressing room,
Yeah,
which is
they're
a
annoying.
and you can see the dresser there where she knows what she's doing. She's letting him down after he's tried to get her to give him an escape route, and then she doesn't do so. And that's again, and just in retrospect, by the time you get to further into it, you can see that's her showing that he's not the one that she favors.
Yeah. At,
Yeah,
at the end of the entire run, Mark, when the nine series finished, they did a making of sort of a best of sort of compilation and did a lot of interviews with the guys. And Shearsmith said the last 30 seconds of a show shouldn't be everything. It's actually all about the journey. And
indeed.
this is a perfect example. Although this has got an amazing twist at the end, the build up before we even get to it is incredible in this episode, and there is so much detail in this. I mean, there's a bit where they say good luck, and it's like, oh no, you shouldn't say that sort of thing because it's in a theatre.
Yeah,
And even to the point, and I read this and I didn't know this until last night when I looked this up, the colour green is supposed to be unlucky in a theatre.
yeah.
The colours of the walls of that dressing room are green.
Ah, okay, nice touch.
Yeah, they deliberately
They're
made it
doing that for the
unnerving.
theatre, for the actors who do theatre, right?
But
They're
the
doing.
lovies that are watching this, they'd have gone, "Oh my God, no, that's a bit too much." Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, like I said, it was the least favourite of the three, but I still really liked it. If I'd seen this on its own, I'd be like, yeah, that was great, you
Mm,
know? So it's like that to me. And I don't really care about the twists, to be honest. It's kind of interesting. But it is the journey for me, yes. And
yeah.
but this was a good twist. I did not see the last twist coming. I was not expecting that. I thought
Very
it was a
clever.
different thing.
Yeah.
Though I was a bit, I've got to be careful. Near the end, it's like, well, where's this person gone now?
Hmm.
It gets revealed,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Which brings us to the last one, the harrowing. This personally was my favourite of the six, actually, because it's horror. I
Yeah.
love a bit of horror, and this is the most outright horror one in many. Well, it is a horror, but there's I really enjoyed this. Amy Fionn Edwards plays a schoolgirl Katie. I really like this actress. She's in the Detectress. She's very good in Detectress as
Yes.
well. She's hard to house it, and it is full. I don't know, Monsters, Adams Family kind of house. Brilliant
Hmm.
house. Basically a big gothic mansion. Loved it. It kind of reminded me a bit when they went to the front door of the house they sometimes used in The Young Ones, though it isn't the same house.
Yeah,
It's just the
They
yeah.
use this
doorway.
house. They use this house in subsequent episodes a few times. I think it gets used
It's
another
a great
two,
house.
three, two,
Yeah.
three times. It gets used as the exterior at least.
Yeah, I was trying to wonder, was there a house like this in Psychoville as well? Am I dreaming? Um,
Oh, can't remember.
where the bloke with tea leaf, Steve Pemberton's character. I can't remember his name.
Yes, that could be. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, great house. But we get basically Tabitha, Helen McCrory answer the door. Katie's got a job to basically house sit, and she's getting paid. What, 11 quid an hour or something? And she's saying, "Oh, till 2 in the morning, it's 88 quid." She's talking to her friend, but as she turns in towards the street, she loses the signal. Um,
Before she can tell her friend where it is, the address.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that is interesting. Yes, yes, that's interesting because her friend does turn up, even though she hasn't given the address, right? Essentially, Helen McCrory talks in a very odd way, like she's from another time, and she doesn't really understand modern technology. Interesting, and she's got very long nails. And then Hector turns that she's. I mean, this is Carry On Screaming
It's
almost,
exactly
isn't
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
thought.
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was thinking, oh my God, if they did read in Carry On Screaming, this would be perfect. Helen McCrory was excellent as Tabitha. Unfortunately, she's passed now, isn't she,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Helen?
beautiful
sadly, sadly.
background.
She was excellent. She's excellent in loads of things. I saw her in, I think, Penny Dreadful, where she was
Yeah.
kind of a similar character to this.
Well,
She was excellent.
her and the girl, I've forgotten her name now. They appeared together in Peaky Blinders as well.
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that. I
Yes.
haven't seen Peaky
Mhm.
Blinders. I did not know that. But she's quite good because I think I looked up her age, Amy, at this point. Sorry, I'm talking about Katie, the schoolgirl. She was
Yeah,
28 when she played this.
yeah. She was because there was some disquiet about her ending up a schoolgirl ended up in a bra and knickers at a
Yeah,
certain point,
Mm.
and the pushback against that was she's
she's
late,
28.
she's
Yeah.
28, so it's all right.
But she's fairly convincing as a schoolgirl.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's
Yeah.
sort of she basically I love some of the dialogue. When they're saying there's a certain phrase that was like, "Oh, did he just say that?" And I will repeat the phrase because it's in the show where he says, and where he talks about an engineer coming there, we're going to give us board band. Uh,
Mm.
but he was sootified, so we didn't let him in. Is that what I think it means? Does he mean he's black?
I've got to say yes. You are
Yeah.
entirely correct there, mate.
That is not a word, though, is it? Or maybe it was at one point. I don't.
Um, yes, the shorter version of that sooty was definitely
Sooty,
a
yeah, Sooty,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, yes, I was like, wow. And they're talking about stuff like that. And then they mention they got someone upstairs. Oh, the episode starts really ominously. I've got to mention by seeing a plate, a rusk is put down, a milk, a baby's bottle, and a pair of pliers. It's put on a tray and taken away. So that tells you there's something quite not quite right about this house. Uh, they mentioned the house is freezing and it's kept at -3 because of a medical condition of someone upstairs. And they're told someone's upstairs, but it never rings the bell and all this, that, and the other. And essentially, they go out. Hector and Tabitha leave. Oh, he does mention. Oh, she looks at his nails. He's got really long nails. He goes, "Don't worry, I'm not a vampire. I just play the guitar." And then and they say stuff like that. It's like, wow, what a thing to say. I'm not a vampire.
And there's all the stuff with the paintings, isn't there, as well, all the
Oh
way
yeah, there's
around
all
the
these
house, yeah. And the cats.
Goya, like bright bacon and Goya-esque kind of paintings of demons and sort of people thrown into pits and stuff like that. But Katie's friend Poppy turns up, who's a bit gothy. Um, and they're looking at the paintings and they're sort of saying things like, they look like One Direction. And Katie's like, "Do you think they exist?" He goes, "Yes, One Direction do exist." There's all that kind of stuff, right? Um, and it keeps going, and they're in this freezing house wearing hats, and basically they find a man tied to a bed upstairs. A touch of Seven in this, right? Who's got
Definitely, yeah. Seven vibes.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's got a gag, and his feet are deformed, and And there's a mention earlier. Oh no, he can only eat rats because he's got no mouth, is what they say. Or in fact, and I won't go on to any more because I don't want to spoil it. But essentially, it's horror. It's a horror story, isn't it?
It's not got a twist ending. It has just got a horrific ending. Edge of the
Yes,
sea. Oh my God,
yes.
ending. It's one of those.
Yeah, it's extremely creepy. It's a straight out horror film, and I think that was the intention. Well, it must have been the intention. That's what they delivered. Everything about it screams a horror film,
It's
right?
the only one out of the six that Pemberton doesn't appear in as well.
Well, I mean, it's like the Last Gasp one is the only one in which Shearsmith
Shearsmith.
doesn't appear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
There's only one other episode later on in, I think, series 6 or 7. There's one episode which neither of them appears in, but otherwise
Yes.
this is they're otherwise they're both in every episode apart from 2 in this series and that one later on.
yeah. I really like this one. I think this was my favourite of the six, actually. What? Yeah. What did you guys? Did you guys dig this one?
I think it's probably the one that the guys themselves probably enjoyed the most. If you know their sort of background and their interests and you know what they're famous for, I can imagine that when they were writing this and setting it up and performing it, it was the episode that they wanted to make most of all, I think. I absolutely loved it all the way through this because even watching it for a second time, I'd forgotten what was going to happen and what was going on. And it still had that tension for me, second time round, which is a good indication of great writing if you can actually sort of rewatch something a year later and still be surprised by it.
Yeah.
I think they do this kind of thing because, like Scott says, their background and their interests, which they wear on their sleeves as far as their
Mm.
influences with the gothic horror and particularly campy gothic horror from like the 70s and stuff. I think they do this incredibly well, this kind of thing. However, I think that they've wisely decided to do this kind of thing sparingly um, throughout the entire series because it could quite very easily, I think, have just been that they did this either as a first episode of the first series or did too many like this and then get pigeonholed, and it been that some people were dismissive of what they were doing. Whereas there is a leap around of the different styles and the different um, genres which they're pulling from. It's very wise for them to have. I think this as having it in there particularly in the first series, but leaving it to the last episode, I think it is very wise. I don't know whether that was a decision of theirs or whether that was other people production wise. I imagine that they have a lot of creative control in order to be able to get their way on this. But it being the last episode, I think not only is it a strong episode, not my favorite of the series, but certainly not my least favorite. But
Yeah.
it does show that anybody who wants that kind of thing, they can go, right, yeah, these guys will give me this when I want it, as well as give me all the rest, which is also incredibly well done. So yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and I think that the twists in it are good. I think that they are Scott says, I think they are enjoying themselves with it as well,
Hmm.
really.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm going to put you on the spot now. I've just said that I think this is my favorite episode. Stephen, what's your favorite episode of this season?
I would say Quiet Night In, and then followed by Tom and Jerry, and then after then it gets a bit messy though. I would say Last Gasp probably maybe last, but yeah, Quiet Night In. That just always sticks with me, even though Tom and Jerry is good. I think Last Gasp is so finely crafted.
Yeah, I can see why you picked it because it totally delivers on what they were trying to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's not a flaw in it at all in what they were trying to do. Scott, what about you? What's your favorite?
I've got to agree with Quiet Night In, not just for the fact that totally enjoyed it. I just think people will look back at that episode, as I said earlier, and just say that is the prime example of British comedians making silent comedy at its best. It is a flawless episode for something that must have been quite difficult to do. But I'm going to drift away from Tom and Jerry, and I'm going to say my second favourite would have been Sardines. Because of the cast, because of its positioning in the running order, being the first one, if it's the first
Mm.
one you've come across, and that is the first thing you're presented with, you're thinking, wow, if this is the opening, where are we going with this season? This is amazing because they've pulled out all the stops in episode one, and it just gets better with episode two. Gets a bit patchy as we go through three, four, five, and six, but at the same time, every single one's enjoyable in its own way.
Yeah. What I found interesting about the whole lot is a few of the episodes remind me of other movies. Sardines really reminded me of a film I saw a long time ago called Festen, a Danish, I think, a Danish film, Festen, all called The Celebration, about a family celebration and dark secrets being coming out and it really felt quite reminiscent of
Hmm.
that. And the harrowing definitely reminds me, and unfortunately I can't remember the name. There is definitely a horror film which uses almost exactly the same structure. Um, and I think it was made after the heroine. I think it's a more recent film. I could be wrong, but unfortunately I can't remember the name of it, so that's a bit
Yeah.
annoying. But it's interesting that they're sort of, and I'm sure these are parallels, not and they're not necessarily copying or they might be inspired. It's possible, but there was certainly some elements that I'd seen before in other things. So it's kind of interesting, and I think I might have mentioned that when I talked about sardines in the isolated episode. But one thing I like about the series is how different you just do not know what you're going to get when you sit down to watch an episode, do you? I mean, that's what they're setting up. It's not predictable in any way. The best shows, I think, are like that. They have a certain elasticity, and you because you don't know what you're going to get, but there's often a through line, and the vibe is the through line in this, and the two mains, I guess. And it just says, well, the X Files, for example, is really good at that. You sit down to a copy of an X Files in the first few seasons. You don't know if it's going to be horror. You don't know if it's going to be goofy. You don't know if it's going to be high drama. You just don't know. And Inside Number Nine pulls that off. I presume they keep that up through the nine, Stephen. Is it,
They do,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's no, it doesn't feel formulaic, and it doesn't feel like they're going, all right, we must have one in the series that's out of the six that's more comedic, one that's more your gothic horror, one that's more. They don't. There's no feel of that. There is absolutely a jump around, and I'm sure that they've tried to make sure there's variation within each individual series to
Mm.
not have it that they've got too many of the same kind of episodes together. But it certainly doesn't feel like it's a formula or there's you know anything is forced in that way. They've just managed to balance it out really well, and I think it's because I'm a big fan of the work of the pair of them writing and performing, and I think that it just shows that what they've got as far as to pull up on, and they inspire each other. I mean, and they work well together. I mean, I don't know if you know, but they had an office for doing their writing, and whoever turns up first stages a death scene
Yeah.
for the other to come into,
Yeah.
and that's been going on for years. And again, it just shows how the well doesn't run dry with these two. And there's no sense throughout the series that there's anything where it feels like they are, even towards the end. You don't feel that the last series is anything weaker
Oh, Stephen, they could have
or
done another
anything.
5 or 6 seasons most
Exactly,
easily.
and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. I'm not trying to diminish the effort that goes into it because
Yeah.
I'm sure it was creatively intensely hard process to do things of such quality for such amount of time.
Yeah.
But they also have admitted that on the other side, there's a great freedom for them to be able to just do all this variation that they have, and they've not they've kind of worded themselves quite carefully with regards to Inside Number Nine to say that they're not necessarily saying they'll never do it again. They're just not doing any more now. and nobody should expect anytime soon, sort of thing. But whatever they'll do next will be amazing, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
it shows that they've got a great creative well. I mean, apparently they've got stacks of notebooks each with just, and it is like you said, Mark. Some of it is just it's a comment that they hear on the bus. And they'll note that comment down, and that'll be either something they'll come back to and put that into something else, or it might be something that they springboard out of. So their creativity is something that I'm in awe of when it comes out to be this quality. And yeah, the variation, which is what you were asking about, is there throughout the entire set of series. And the only ones that feel like they've made a special effort to try and do something that's thematic is when they do the Christmas episodes or the
Yes.
Halloween one.
Halloween one's excellent.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent.
Right.
And I'm quite jealous, Mark, that you've got another 8 seasons to actually watch.
Yeah, and I'm going to. I am going
Yeah,
to. I
and going
really
into
enjoyed
them,
this. Yeah.
I mean, when I first went into them, I thought, how are they going to prolong this number nine thing?
Mm,
How many different locations can have a number nine? But what you find as the series progress, it's not a limitation. It makes them more creative, I think,
yeah.
as it
Yeah.
goes through. You've
Yeah.
got the single setting for most of these episodes because it is inside number nine every single episode. But then what you get is more focus on character, the interaction between people and the dialogue, those sort of things that we noticed in Sardines, the tensions, the dynamics when people are placed in sort of close quarters and they're under pressure. Um, and it's sometimes, like in other series, um, they're placed in a single sort of setting because of budgetary reasons, you
Yeah.
know. But what the guys have done in this, they've turned that into an art form. Um, they can make something out of the most plainest and boring of settings, like a dressing room, like a wardrobe. I mean, there's some we can't tell him, can we, Stephen? Some of the other what number nines are.
No, they're a great variation. I mean, and this has been, I would be honest and say I think it's been stolen
Mm.
by others. This because there's a series. I don't know how long it lasted, but there was a series that started up more recently from the United States. It was about a hotel room,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it was using the same hotel room or whatever
yeah,
number it was, and you're just thinking, "All right, well, that's fairly derivative." And I'm
yeah.
not saying that I think I watched one, maybe two of the episodes of that. And I'm not saying it was poor quality or anything. Just it just shows that the reach of this from from two people who are quite avowedly proud, I think, of the Britishness and anything that they've done, dipping their toes into things that are international have been dipping their toes. That's what I think they prefer to just be here in the UK rather than traveling. Despite what some of the comments that are made in the very final episode as sort of tying in with that about international projects and stuff, they're quite happy to be doing what they do here in this country, and the quality is there. And the inside number nine does mean that, as we've mentioned, it is located in a very tight setting, which is almost play-like as far as one room, if not one house sort of thing. But that does make them more creative,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel like a limitation. It doesn't feel like something they've struggled against. It just feels like it's something that's made them more creative, more strong, and be able to invest more in the dialogue, like Scott says, and the tension rather than it being.
The
Because I think
location.
I think
Yeah.
there's only one or two where they actually have any action taken on exterior. There's the one
Yeah.
about there's one with a siege of some kidnappers,
She's one of the worst episodes,
in a
actually.
house, and and I'm trying to think.
There's
I
one in
think
a
there's one.
boat.
Yeah, there's one or two others that are set, with multiple settings that are somewhere
Mm.
outside of a building, but most of them are set within a room. and it just makes them stronger. And
Yeah.
I feel like I can guess some of the ones that are coming, and I don't know because I'm looked ahead. I imagine, for example, there might be something like a self-help group with 9 people, and like they call themselves numbers. I don't know. This is just a guess,
Oh.
or it could be a bank robbery. But in Reservoir Dogs, the Mr. Orange is
Oh.
number one, number two, number three. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing. I could kind of see things like that, right? I could see
You're
that.
in for a great time, mate. Just put it that way. You are gonna love it.
Okay, let's sum up and also tell my listeners about Real Britannia. So, do you mind if I go first?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Really
Your show,
enjoyed
sir.
this. I mean, I've said this already. I really enjoyed this. This is a great set of episodes, and I'm kind of psyched. If the quality is maintained for all out nine, this is a superlative anthology series. It really is. It's one of the great ones, and it's so satisfying to see some great stuff coming out of Britain in this space. Inside Number Nine, Black Mirror, and so on. But yeah, Inside Number Nine, I really, really dug this watch. This first watch of these. That's my thoughts on it. Scott.
Um, for me, it's the whole blending of genres throughout these 6 episodes. We've got threads of black comedy, you've got psychological thriller, social satire, and the final one, you've got actual gothic horror. Sardines quite night in, dark comedy, lots of social discomfort, and then slapstick in the second one. Tom and Jerry, the understudy, psychological thriller. You got mental fragility, obsession, ambition. There's everything. We're only talking 6 episodes, and already there's all these themes and genres coming in. And
Yeah.
Last Gasp with the balloon, social satire, celebrity culture, greed that we mentioned before. So for me, the whole thing is compelling because there's a whole variety of genres on display, but the way that they just happen within a single episode, you get a bit of unpredictability. That's got morbid commentary, social commentary, and general creepiness as well throughout.
Mm.
Um, Dark British humour at its best.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a good summary of this. Stephen.
yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, difficult for me to say anything that isn't just repeating the dark comedy, along with it being that they're such experts at paying homage or referencing other things without it being obvious. You can watch these shows repeatedly and pick up on things different every time when you're watching them. And so knowing the twist or knowing the outcome or knowing the plot doesn't in any way spoil it. In actual fact, often allows you to pick up on extra things. As I've said, the any talk of there being weaker episodes is that this is something, that's an episode that's a 9.5 rather than a 10, whereas the rest are a
Yeah.
10 sort of thing.
Yeah.
So very much that's a relative comment rather than anything else. The I do think that yes, there is an element where there's an extra enjoyment or an extra joy from this that you get if you are in tune with British culture, because they are very British, but which is obviously the types of things that we cover on the podcast our own. But
Yeah.
they are. I don't think that is a limitation that stops people from being able to enjoy things from outside of Britain. I just think that there's maybe like some of the stuff we watch from the United States, we'll enjoy watching it, even though there are some of the references to culture over there we might miss out on just because we don't know who a particular person is, a politician or some brand of burger chain or something like that we don't have over here. But otherwise, this is premium quality that doesn't drop all the way through. Not this series or any of the series, and we just I think we're incredibly lucky to have had it, really. And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
BBC to have supported them and basically they, as far as I can work out, the BBC were happy for them to continue churning them out. But it was them making a decision themselves to move on to other things, and fair play to them that they want a different kind
yeah.
of challenge.
Yeah, I would not be a bit surprised if we got another series in, say, 5 years. I can see that after doing 9 sets of this, must need the batteries recharging, must need some creative, downtime.
Or to do something longer form, maybe.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
They might
yeah,
either as a film or do something that is 6 episodes that are actually all linked to each other, whereas
Ooh.
yeah.
none of
I
this
mean,
was.
if I was restarting Amicus, say, I'd be after these guys, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's the sort of thing that would actually work in a cinema. I could totally see that, or a movie on a streaming service or something, or even the BBC again. But yeah, it would be kind of. I mean, the obvious progression that this may be something like an Amicus film, right? Something
Yeah.
along those lines. It would kind of work. Yeah. So, well, thanks for coming on, guys. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
and also thank you so much for helping me start this new phase of Anthologic 2. Would one of you like to tell us about Real Britannia?
I'll go quickly, actually. Yeah, 8 years in the making, 180 episodes we're standing at the moment, running the whole gamut from early Hitchcock's to, well, the 2020s. We've got no rules as to what British movies we review. Mark has appeared in almost a quarter now of those 180 episodes. He's with us virtually every other week. Um, Focusing mainly on Hammer, but also throwing up some wonderful stuff like Melody, mate. That was a great episode. Party, all those British movies that most other podcasts don't talk about. But dotted amongst all of that, we're doing the classics, we're doing the Dam Busters, we're doing the James Bonds, we're doing the Carry Ons, the kitchen sink dramas, and everything. And Mark, you are a very welcome addition to that podcast. Thank you.
Oh well, thank you. I always enjoy partaking in those episodes. Okay, we will wind up this episode. So thanks so much, guys, and bye from me.
Yeah, bye from me. Goodbye.
Take care.